The best-selling book, The 5 People You'll Meet in Heaven, has touched readers' lives for 15 years now, tells the story of Eddie, a maintenance worker at an amusement park who dies after saving a little girl named Annie from an accident. So in heaven, Eddie meets 5 people from his life who teach him lessons about himself and the world that he lived in. That book sold more than 14 million copies in 38 territories. It has been published in 35 different languages. People like that book. Author Mitch Albom's new book is called The Next Person You'll Meet in Heaven. As you might expect, it's a sequel to that very popular story. So it follows Annie as an adult and introduces us to the 5 people that she meets in heaven. One of them, of course, is Eddie. Mitch Albom joins us at the table to discuss the book. It's good to see you, Mitch.
Yeah, it's great to
We always
see all
like
of
it when
you.
you come here.
Hi.
Listen, you said for the last 15 years, wherever you went, people said, what happened to the little girl? But it took you 15 years to tell us. Why did it take you so long?
Well, when you're imagining heaven, it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah,
you know. But this actually, the story sort of goes back to the whole idea of the 5 people you meet in heaven, that lives intersect, everybody's connected. And so I had to sort of figure out how Annie was connected and what was going to happen when she, after being saved, ends up dying and goes to heaven 15 years later.
Well, it's also a story about mistakes and loss, that you say mistakes aren't always mistakes, and loss isn't always loss when you look at it.
Absolutely right. The first book, Eddie thought his whole life was a mistake because he was stuck working in an amusement park taking care of rides. It turns out when he goes to heaven that he had killed a child in war that he didn't know about, so he ended up working as an amusement park worker to take care of children. We never understand those kind of things. Annie is saved by this accident. She doesn't even remember it in the book, so she keeps thinking her whole life is a mistake. Well, she's sort of remembering she made some kind of mistake that somebody died as a result of. She ends up becoming a nurse because her life was saved, and she ends up saving other people's lives. So the book is sort of for people who, as Maury from Tuesdays with Maury said to me, you know, you need to forgive yourself when you reach the end of your life. You know, forgive yourself as you go along, because we're pretty hard on ourselves for the mistakes that we think we're making. And they're not all mistakes in the end.
It's interesting. We had a family discussion about this. I mean, you write in here, if you knew you were about to die, how would you spend your final hours? We had a family discussion about if you knew that you only had 1 year left on your life, how would you spend it? And thinking about death, while morbid, can also change the direction of your life.
That's right. It makes every day precious. And I think that that's what Maury did. And that's what the idea is behind all of this. You know, we spend a lot of time thinking about the losses that we have in our lives, and certainly my books have dealt with that kind of thing. There's a moment in the book, Annie has a pipe cleaner animal that's very significant in her life, and I won't say who does this, but at one point, the pipe cleaner is dismantled, and someone says to her, look, this is the heart that you're born with. He makes a single pipe cleaner heart, and it's small, it's perfect. And then he takes the other 4 and he puts them all together, and it's this big heart with lines all across. He says, and this is the heart you die with. And she says, but it's all broken. And he says, that's right. And she says, well, that's what ruins it. He says, no, that's what makes it whole. And that's what life really is. The losses we have actually teach us to appreciate, as you said, the days that we have and the people we have with us.
And the way we value our life, I've always been interested. Uncle Eddie, who was the inspiration, thought he was a nobody. The notion that you can have a life that has immense value, but you can still think you're a nobody.
Well, I think that, unfortunately, a lot of people in America feel that way, and that's why I wrote this book for people who kind of think, I don't matter, or why does everything I touch go bad, you know? Well, when Annie gets to heaven, she finds out that all these things that she did wrong, there was a consequence to that turned out to be right. And I think if we just look at it that way, that the things that we do wrong sometimes offer us opportunities to be better. The mistakes that we made offer us opportunities to not make those mistakes in the future. Then that nothing life that you're referring to isn't nothing at all. It touches all kinds of people. And the conceit of 5 people you meet in heaven was because my uncle thought he was a nobody. And he once told me his dead relatives were waiting for him. He had a near-death experience, and he thought that he saw them waiting on the edge of the bed while he had an operation. And then he told them, get out of here, I'm not ready for you yet. And he went back into his body and lived a few years longer. But I always thought, well, that's what heaven must be like, people waiting for you. But what if they're not just your relatives? What if they're people who you might have had, you know, just us, 5 minutes, and, you know, you take a turn here or there and you affect their life forever. So I think if we think that we all kind of connect, we might be more appreciative of our lives.
On paper, death is such a dark topic, and you seem to make it so inspirational. You read this book with tears and a smile at the same time.
Well, I try not to write about death as much as just use death to illuminate life. And I think once we all realize we have limited time, we start to take life a little more preciously.
It's a great read. Thank you so much,
death
Mitch.
to illuminate life. That's nice.
Mitch Albom, thanks so much. Great to have you on.
Great to see you.
Great to see you. The Next Person You Meet in Heaven is on sale now.